Hey everyone, Hydra Hut here, and we're going to cover the issue 1 of Goblin Slayer, the manga. Now, I may end up redoing this video so that I'm not struggling with this book like an epileptic at a disco, but I'm going to try and go ahead and do this review in the car. There's some stuff in specific I want to talk about that may be kind of difficult since I only have the one hand. And if that's the case, then that's when I'll just give up and go home and do it from home when I can use my tripod and have both hands. So, let's start off with this. This got a whole lot of publicity because Crunchyroll put it on the air and they marked it as PG. So a lot of people who were not familiar with it, they just saw Goblin Slayer, saw the cute girl, and saw that it was rated PG, and in the description was very, very lacking in an explanation of what's going on in this story. So a whole bunch of people, and I'm assuming some of them probably even kids, watched it and got to see a rape. Which isn't a laughing matter, I know, but at the same time it's pretty funny because Crunchyroll should have fucking known better. And it's entirely their fault why this whole debacle happened. But instead of people really being mad at Crunchyroll, everybody was mad at the normies who watched Goblin Slayer and were offended by, and I'm going to say, offended by very lackluster, non-descriptive rape, essentially. Now, the anime is supposed to be far less brutal than the manga. I haven't watched the anime yet. I just finished reading this a couple days ago and figured I'd do a review. If my opinion changes while watching, I'll make some note of that. But if you're familiar with manga and you've read a lot of stuff, especially older, darker manga, like let's just take Berserk, for example. And this actually has a nice homage to Berserk, which is one of the things I want to talk about because I thought it was pretty cool. But like the first 38 books of Berserk, rape plays an extremely noticeable role throughout the series. And it is far more brutal than anything you see in this. And I'm going to take a quick break from talking as somebody walks up to the car. Okay, we're back. So, as I was saying, Berserk is far more brutal. And honestly, at first, it was very hard to read. But it all serves a purpose and sets a scene, and it's there for a reason. And while I think some stories can go a little bit too descriptive, a little bit too overboard, maybe a little too cringe on it, this is not one of them. The rape in this is very moderate. There's very little actual nudity, and it's really more just making sure you know that the girls didn't almost get that way. They did get that way. And it's not doing it to try and be erotic or try and show sexuality. It's doing it because your base instinct as a fellow human being is to get extremely emotionally attached and defensive of the person who is being attacked or raped in this situation. It's to basically goad your emotions into understanding why the character does what he does and acts the way he does. It's not just for shock value. It's not just to be edgy. It's there for a reason. And it's really not that bad of a job. So, our art is by Kosuke Kurose. Original story, Kumo Kagyu. Character design, Noboru Kanatuki. I'm sure I screwed those names up, and I'm sorry, but that's my American showing through. Now then, let's try and take a look at some of these interiors. So we get a couple color pages, nothing serious. Now, the story is following this young priestess here. She recently finished up training at the temple and decided that she wanted to become an adventurer so that she could share her arts, well, her magical arts with other people. The way the Adventurers Guild is set up is that you have multiple levels of adventurers. Porcelain being the smallest, silver, gold, and platinum being the top three. Gold and platinum are very rarely ever do anything low level. Like platinum is all dignitary stuff and political. Gold is like national level security. Silver is about the highest level adventurer you're going to see in the Adventurers Guild. So we're following a porcelain who goes and gets signed up. The lady who signs her up for the quest recommends that she goes and clears some rats out of a basement or something along those lines. Something nice and easy. Sorry, it was cold this morning and now it's freaking hot and there's buses behind me. So, as she's about to agree to go and look for a simpler job, a group of young adventurers who are clearly poorly equipped for their duty and are all also porcelain ranked come up and are like, hey, we need a healer to help us fight these goblins. Let's go slay some goblins. The person who's giving out the quest clearly understands that it's a bad idea for them to be doing that, but she can't really say anything, and she doesn't. She just kind of cringes and watches them leave and hopes for the best. Now, this party is made up of a hand-to-hand combat fighter who's a young girl with black hair, a particularly buxom sorceress, a young warrior who's wearing light armor, and then our healer. Not the most competent young team, that's for certain. But they're all presented very nicely, and it comes across like a slice of life manga where just a bunch of young idiots go out and do a bunch of great stuff together. It does not end that way. A whole bunch of stupid stuff happens along the way. They end up getting attacked, and I'm going to start ruining some story for you. I'm going to show you what these scenes are and how bad they really aren't. Basically, the goblins get them, they get a hold of the girls, and they start violating them. And it's not nearly as bad as it sounds. So the first girl to go down is our sorceress. She pretty much just gets stabbed. Her corpse gets groped at some point. Honestly, it's fairly mild. While this is all happening, though, they do end up capturing the black-haired girl and start doing some pretty nasty stuff to her. That is right here. This is about the extent of nudity that you're going to see. There's no actual penetration or anything like that. Yes, it's gross. Yes, it is not something you really want to focus on, but no, it is not there to get you turned on. It is there to get you emotionally attached to the character and help you understand what they are going through. So consider that when you're trying to read this. Now, the young priestess who we're technically actually following in this story, she gets discovered because she gets terrified and pees herself, and the goblins smell it. They come up to her what they've been doing to the other girls, and that's when our boy, the Goblin Slayer, shows up. He's a beast. He really is. And there's quite a few homages to, and like shout-outs to other series in this. The one I want to mention specifically, I hope I can find it, is this fantastic call-out to Berserk. I really feel like they pulled a lot from for this story. I'm going to try not to ruin anything too much, but essentially the young girl starts going on adventures with Goblin Slayer. We learn a lot about his history further into the book and why he does what he does. And there is a spot a little further up where he is talking to the... Oh, yes. Goblin Slayer doesn't hold back for goblin children either. And this, right? No, that's not it. Damn. I'm sorry to be suddenly jumping around. I just don't want to ruin too much of the story. I just really wanted to cover how bad the rape is not, and also talk about a couple of things you see that remind me of other stories. Also, this is the best girl, just so you know, for obvious reasons. So back at the Adventurers Guild, there's more goblin problems being shown up. And that's when we find out that the silver-ranked adventurers don't bother with goblins because there's no glory to be had in it, and also very little money because the people who need them gone are usually poor villagers. So high-ranked adventurers that can handle it easy, they don't do it because there's no reward. Low-ranked adventurers who really aren't capable will try and accept this to make a name for themselves and generally get slaughtered. It usually takes about 3 groups of porcelains before the problem is actually solved. So while the issues do get taken care of, there's a lot of needless death involved, and that really bothers the counter girl. Fortunately, Goblin Slayer is kind of he's a silver rank, he only takes goblin jobs, and he really solves a lot of the problems that she sees with the way their system is structured. While he's accepting a job, she's trying to better understand the goblins and asks him, like, why he thinks the goblins do. Oh. This girl right here. This sorceress right here. I am 90% sure that her design is based off of the sorceress for Dragon Quest, who's my favorite sorceress. And that's one homage that I thought was kind of cool. But anyway, here she's asking him, like, why do goblins do what they do? And at first I thought this was a mix-up in the translation, because he starts giving this speech about why he does what he does. And it's basically that he watched something terrible happen to his family, so now he wants to be to goblins what goblins are to villagers. And that's why he mercilessly kills every last one of them, no matter the age. He gives an explanation for all of it. It's very interesting. This right here is a call out to Berserk. This pose is a pose Guts takes when he's in his Berserker armor, albeit his sword is much bigger and his armor is much more tricked out, but 100%, this is a homage to Berserk, and I thought it was fucking awesome. I'm really not going to go much more into it. I will say the final page, but overall, I really like this. I really like Goblin Slayer's character, and it's not nearly as bad as people have made it out to be. Also, Mim did a review on it. I'm sure more people have seen. If you're watching mine, you've probably seen his, and he did a much better job. But yeah, give it a chance. You might like it. Hell Hydra, baby.